All right, well, welcome everybody to the February 12th, 2025 County Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. Go ahead and call this meeting to order and right at 1 o'clock. Has everyone got a copy of the agenda in front of them and had a chance to look over it? Do you have a motion to approve?
All right.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Also attached here, we've got a copy of the minutes from our last meeting on November 20th, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to either view that electronically or had an opportunity to look through the hard copies that we have?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll open the floor up to public comment. Remember, this is uninterrupted 3 minutes for anyone who would like to speak. I'll keep a timer here and there will be an audible. If you do choose to speak, please stand and address yourself as identify yourself for the record and whatnot. And then I will start the timer as soon as you start into your comments. You may ask questions, but this will not be a back and forth discussion. You will have a solid 3 minutes, and then later on in our agenda, if the committee wishes to address any of those comments or any of those questions, then the committee will revisit that. So, would anyone like to take the floor for public comment? Ladies, whichever one of you wants to go first.
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Chris Deutsch. I volunteer at the shelter and just a Gainesville native. Well, not a Gainesville native. I've been here 35 years, so it's close. Couple of questions that have come up, and it's I follow the posts about found dogs, dogs that are missing, and someone quoted some Asilomar statistics that 8 dogs at our shelter with survivable injuries were euthanized. It had to do with a dog that somebody found that they thought it had broken leg, and somebody else chimed in, "Don't take it to the shelter, they'll euthanize it." I'm thinking, I think about that dog that was paralyzed that went out and actually got a home. Anyway, if there's anything that we can anybody wants to comment back when the time comes about why they would say 8 dogs with survivable injuries were euthanized, and then directly pointed to that Asilomar statistics sheet, which I hadn't even seen before, but they said it was for us. The other thing that I have and probably Mr. Kuhn would be the best one to answer this is I have horses, and a lot of people who don't have horses often talk to me about horses. And we all know that when there's neglected horses, they'll see them and they're emaciated and, they've just been neglected. But the one they were telling me about, and it isn't something that's happening right now, but it was an old horse that had pasture, it had hay. It was owner was doting on it, but it was apparently its teeth were bad and it still was like emaciated. And the person said to me, and I had to concur that, that horse is still starving to death. Even with all the best things you could do. So my question was, is there a policy about something like that? I mean, like, do you, contact the owner? Do you say this horse can't continue like this? That's you're not being fair to the horse, or do you just say nature takes its course? So anyway, those are my 2 comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dottie Fabercy, Gainesville resident. I have a question about agenda item 6.2.1. Revisit frequency of meetings. So I guess that will be discussed when you get to that on the agenda, but I'm concerned which way you're heading on these meetings, more or less. So I'll wait for that item.
Let me get some notes here.
You might want to stand here.
Oh, not at all.
I want to be walking.
All right, you're right.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Rupert, and I am concerned about the county entering into a lease, sublease with UF and the Board of Regents regarding a new animal resources and care facility at the swine unit on Southwest 23rd Terrace. I have voiced my concerns over the course of a year now, and knowing that this committee serves in an advisory role, I'm asking you to review the current versions of the documents and provide comments individually to the Board of County Commissioners. Yesterday, a commissioner inferred that I didn't want the county to work with UF. That is not true. I think UF is a wonderful educational institution. In fact, I have 4 degrees from UF, but I do believe there are businesses as well. Therefore, they do everything they can to maintain control of their property. I am on record for being against this agreement for a number of reasons. Environmental, including the soil, runoff from the hardscapes and animal play areas, nearby aquifer monitoring wells, future and possibly current DEP problems, noises, also traffic congestion now and in the future, the major entrance to UF, knowing the RTS contract with UF ends in 2027. So even more vehicular traffic, ingress, egress, ability for animal resources to respond in a timely fashion to an emergency. Also a timeline and administration. All the routes that as per the contract will have to be jumped, meeting with individual UF committees to be granted various approvals. Who meets with them? Who gets the items on the agenda? Who appears before the Board of Trustees? Who monitors all the reporting requirements and fulfills them, along with who pays for all of it? I've heard several times this would give the vet students a place to volunteer. Are they lacking in opportunities? The program agreement can be canceled by the vet school or the county with 1 year's notice. Why would you want to put about $30 million of the public money at risk? U.S. committee members may not make policy, but you can voice your opinion. Do you want your name associated with a project that may be continuously monitored by UF for any infraction that UF feels has been made for 30 or more years, and that the county will have to demolish and remove from the site at the end of the lease, or it has spoken before? I asked via a public records request last week for the characteristics and requirements the county needs in order to build a new facility. I was told yesterday they are still putting that information together. If the county really did consider other properties, which they said they did, but offered no proof, why is it so hard to pull the requirements together? I am giving you copies of the current draft agreements, along with a copy of the map found in UF's campus master plan, which I want to include in a public record for today's meeting. I put some of my notes in the margins and highlighted some areas of concern. Please read these documents from the viewpoints of the animals, the environment, the staff, the volunteers, the students, and the public monies.
Ms. Rupert, did you bring copies of that you're referring to for the internet public record? You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment? Ms. Lance. Would you be more comfortable there? Would you be more comfortable there?
No, wherever I can be heard.
Yes,
Because I'm
ma'am.
not home. Again, I don't know if there's a microphone down here, no.
No, just have to project.
Hello,
Hi,
I'm sorry I didn't hear your
That's
speech,
okay.
I'll get it.
Yes,
later.
it'll be
Thank
in
you.
minutes.
My name is Adele Franson, and I would say I'm an avid animal supporter. And so it's very disturbing to get information via people's comments and also some media. And what I'm referring to is what is being spoken of as abuse or inadequate care at animal services. Now, rather than give a personal comment, I would like to read from a journalist who said, "Good afternoon, I'm a journalist with Gainesville Info. Someone sent me an email that's apparently been getting around to the county commissioners, reportedly received, and it alleges that some Bullet Animal Services employees has been contributing to or perpetuating an abusive environment for shelter animals. There is photo evidence of physical debilitating and unsanitary living conditions. And I ask the same questions because I don't know a source that has followed up. And my one message, or one needing to be heard and followed up on, is to ask the county commission for a third-party independent investigation. That's, if anything is heard, and I hope followed up on, it would be that request. And also you can give this information on public records. That's all of this. And so she asked these questions, which I would like to have information to. Because of course, like any kind of issue, there's two schools of thought. One, this is allegation, one, this is the truth. So that's why I said it cannot be really addressed, which it should be. It's crucial that these situations be seen and justice understood. So she asked, has this been discussed at any county board meetings? Is it being investigated by an independent third party? She doesn't say that, but as being investigated. And are the employees mentioned in the email still working for the facility? Now, this this was at the end of November that this supposedly happened. And there is just a couple of incidences mentioned that this person has written about. And she's, is that it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, please give it a breath.
Does that conclude our public comment? Anyone else that has a comment? All right, this time we'll move into our new business. And I think we got some new members in the room. Who wants to handle the introductions? I would, but I don't know yet.
So we can choose. Can I go around?
Can you go around?
Or you want me to start?
Yeah, or if you're gonna handle the introduction of new members?
Yes,
Then
that's
I'll
fine.
turn the floor over to you.
Okay, beautiful. Svetlana is joining our committee today, and Svetlana, would you like to give a little background on yourself?
I'm originally from USSR. I live in Gainesville almost 30 years. I wore many hats in my life, being a real estate broker, owner of a home healthcare company. I do love animals. I've rescued migrated Pyrenees who caused me to have a hip replacement. And he's still in my house, having the best life.
And what is his name?
Fritz.
Fritz.
He already had a name, so I'm his third owner in the 3 years of his life.
Wow.
So it's a work in progress. But I do hope to be helpful and make some difference.
Great, welcome.
So thank you.
Thank you. And then we also have Jacob Schaefer. Do you want to give a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm the animal welfare manager at Grace Marketplace. I am responsible for making sure that all of the animals that come through are vaccinated, healthy, proper diets, hopefully spayed and neutered. I've been there for going on 2 years now, and I've been in animal welfare since 2015. So it's a good fit to go in there.
Welcome. Excited. So we can certainly at least do a round robin of everybody, since everybody's here, of everybody that's on our committee so far, if you would like. Starting with our board chair.
So my name's Perry Coon. I've been with the sheriff's office for getting close to 24 years, and for close to 20 of that, I've been involved with large animal full investigations and at large, anything to do with farms. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah.
I'm Julie Levy. I'm professor and director of the shelter medicine program at the University of Florida and the founder of Operation Cat.
Kristen Young, I work for the Wagmore Foundation, which funds a number of animal welfare nonprofits, and I've been involved in animal rescue for probably 20 years now.
I'm Melissa Jenkins Newmont. I am the operations director for Operation. I'm Chelsea Bauer. I'm the executive director of the Humane Society of Social Care for 10 years. Rescue animals.
50.
Feels like it, but welcome. Medical treatment protocols. So, in your, I was very excited about this. In your packet, you will see some pain scales, the Glasgow Composite Measured Pain Scale. And this was just a really wonderful opportunity for all of our staff at the shelter. Dr. Sheila Robinson was introduced to us by Dr. Levy. And she is a pain specialist and has many years assessing pain in animals and their pain response and how to tell if an animal is in pain. I would love for Adele to hear this next piece, but anyways, and so we got this amazing training from her, and it was based on these pain scales that are within your pocket and how to assess what an animal is feeling at the time. But additionally to that, and we were given access to this, anybody can access this, pet owners, not just for shelters. But she helped co-found basically the Feline Grimace Scale. And it's an app that you can get on your phone. It's readily available to anybody. And what's wonderful about it is you can literally take a picture of a cat. It is not yet for dogs. We hope to see that at some point in the future, but cats are much harder to read sometimes in pain. Dogs are more vocal. They give more outward signs. Cats can hide their pain much easier. And so what this does is you take a picture of the cat and it will give you a pain scale objectively. So instead of having humans guess at what a cat might be feeling, you've got scientifically proven methods to show certain signals that the cats give off to show that they may be still in pain. And that's everything from when they come out of surgery to just when they come into your shelter. It is really amazing. And if you don't take a picture of the cat, the way it basically works is it tells you real time. You come up and you just kind of answer some questions. What is the cat's ear position? There's a series of 5. So it's ear position. What do the cat's ears look like? Muzzle, whiskers, etc. And then it scores it at the end. And what we really love about it is, again, it's not us taking a guess. It's something that has some data behind it, many years of scientific data and research went into this. And so, and that by no means means that the dogs are forgotten. There is a pain scale for dogs as well in here. So we do have that. That is in your packets as well. But I just thought this was so cool to see technology come so far to be able to help address some of the common questions when people really think the animal may be in pain or are concerned about pain. There's one for horses. There's actually an app for horses. They just haven't done dogs, but they've done ferrets, mice, sheep, I think monkeys, something. It's like every other, so it really has come far, but even horses and things like that, cattle, swine. And so it's all based on the same premise. And so we were just really grateful to be able to learn from her, and it gave all the staff kind of a peace of mind that they're making an educated guess rather than just a guess, kind of themselves. So we were really grateful. We are looking into, she does several other talks or lunch and learns basically. And so we are looking forward to scheduling more of those in the future. And we just thought that was really important. It was a good time. We had that letter brought to us. And so to make sure that we're doing everything right at the shelter and if there's something else we can learn and improve on, great, and learn from experts in the field. Really, this is really exciting. So we were very grateful. So
So is this something that y'all have already implemented? You're already trying out?
we are.
So I guess my question is, is staff, is anyone involved with checking, are folks having to use their personal phones, put the app on their phones and?
No, so we do have that, we go off the written first, because our building, because of the age, it doesn't get great signal. So a lot of times it's wonderful, but it doesn't quite go through because of the signal. So then we are utilizing the actual paper version of it, and that does the same thing, they match perfectly.
Well, I guess is what I'm kind of getting at as far as a recommendation this committee could potentially make is, would like a couple of iPads.
We
to
do
go
have
around.
those.
You've already got
We
those
do.
and the apps are on those.
Yes.
No, okay, all right, well, that, of course,
But that helps too, because we don't want people having to use their personal phones if
Right.
they don't have to. And our cell signal does get
Okay.
bumpy, so.
all right.
My follow-up question on that is, how is this being recorded in the record, and is there a structure where certain cats or all cats are just automatically screened by this? Like, is it all?
That I would have to double check and get back to, because I'm not in the on the medical side, I would have to look into that. But it was really nice for just our frontline staff to learn how to address domesticated cats, and that's where I really wanted to go, because I think the medical, they really are looking at those, they've got their hands and their eyes and everything on them, but our frontline staff, when people bring us a cat over the counter and they don't know, they have a tool. And so it's not just like, I think there's something wrong with the cat.
Yeah.
We have something that says, hey, this cat's exhibiting these signs. And so I think in that respect, that was much more helpful. Or a kennel tech that might notice an animal not doing so well in a kennel. That way it gives the medical staff more information.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
And you may not know the answers to them.
Probably not,
Um,
but I'm gonna try.
yes, so, one, is there then a protocol for which pain medications and for what length of time are then prescribed based on that? Based on the assessment?
Okay.
What
You write that down.
agency does the staff have to make those prescriptions? So is that, only a tech or a kennel tech? Who is saying this animal is at this level? Who has the right and the agency to then follow the protocols if those do exist? And then what is the if those protocols exist for a non-veterinarian to prescribe them, how quickly is the veterinarian then being looped into the situation to either then address those, revise the protocols, if it's pain because it's a wound, how quickly is it being put onto the schedule? What is the protocol for that?
Gotcha. I can answer part of it. I can't answer all of it. I can answer a little piece of that. We do have, Dr. Sam has written, pain protocols for everybody to follow.
Okay.
However, they do have to go through medical to get those medications. But we do have medical there during those times.
Okay.
And we also have a weekend person that medicates the animals. If anything comes up, they text Dr. Sam.
Okay.
So it's via text. If it's anything super critical, we have staff run them to one of the emergency hospitals. If we are closed, if it's after hours kind of thing. But Dr. Sam gets looped in at each step of the way. So they are supposed to text her. And that is the medical staff texting her, not just all the staff. I can't answer the other than we have a pain protocol in place. And SOPs with how much to give, when to give, and why you're giving it.
I would be interested.
Sure. Sure.
So is everyone who interacts with animals trained in this scale, or is it just the medical?
No, everybody got this training.
Okay.
Everybody went. Yep,
So
I made it
everyone's using
mandatory.
it?
Yep, I made officers use it. I don't know how much everybody is using it because again, we need to see a cat that would exhibit those signs, not just an RTF cat coming in for You know what I mean? So for spaying or surgery or things like that, but so I should knock on wood, I mean, it's very rare because those cats that are hit by a car or something like that are going straight to medical to receive medical care. So it is very rare that the staff have to use it, the rest of the staff. But it was also helpful for the medical staff to learn it. But I at least wanted everybody to understand and be on the same page that this is what we're judging pain by. So it isn't as subjective. It's much more, you know, it has some data behind it, you know, and it has some science.
And then how long has it been implemented?
So since we took it, it was January, I want to say January 4th. January, something around there. It was right after the holiday. So we did that, we got that on the books, as soon as she was available and was able to do that after our November meeting is when we set it up.
Any other questions, thoughts? You good there? Okay. Yeah, we'll move right on to old business and continue with you at the floor with the director announcements.
That's it.
That's all you.
Okay. So the new shelter update, for anyone that listened to the commission meeting yesterday, there were quite a few comments made. It is at the UF and county manager level at this point. They are talking to each other to finalize what details there may be or may not be or whatever. I am thrilled to report that the commission did sign our agreement with the architect. The architect of record is Borelli and Partners, I believe. And their animal shelter consultant under Borelli, the main architect, is the Bacon Group. They are out of Florida. They have, I don't even know how many years building shelters, probably 40. And so they are very dialed into not only Florida, but animal shelters in particular. And so we are grateful to get them on board and get them going. What we are hoping for is to start the next steps, because regardless of where we end up, whether it goes to UF, which, you know, that's where the discussion is now, or if for some awful reason we had to pick another location or go somewhere else, either way, the design in itself or the shell of the building would not change that much. And so what we're hoping to do then is, as a matter of fact, there was a training on it this morning. Sarah, thankfully, took the training for me this morning. Yay. Called Zen City. And that is going to be a new public facing kind of, I don't know how you describe it, to have Gina describe it better for me, kind of like a public facing, checking on the pulse of the community. What do you want to see? What would you like to have? You know, what would you like to see? Like when you walk in the building, kind of like what we talked about at our last advisory committee meeting, but we can get that to a much broader audience, because people may not be able to come in person to like an open house or something like that. So, you know, just trying to find more ways to connect with the community to see what they're going to want to see in a new shelter. Not necessarily the design, like I don't want the sink here, I want it over here, but you know, more of, it would be really nice because a lot of people in our community really struggle to buy dog food. Can you have a dog? Can you have a pet food pantry? You know, Humane has a great pet food pantry now. Other organizations have pet food pantries, but depending on our location, it may not be as accessible for them to go there, et cetera.
So there's gonna be an increase in needs.
There, absolutely.
We can have them all over town and still get more.
Absolutely, 100% agree. So I think, you know, things like that are important to some of the residents and what they would like to see. We are really wanting to get that input and hopefully incorporate that into our design. Do you want retail space? So when people come and adopt an animal, they can get all of the items they need right there. Because we do run in sometimes where people get so excited about adopting that animal and they're like, I got to go to Walmart or I got to go to PetSmart or Petco to get these other items. Oh shoot, I forgot I don't have this. And you know, so you can sense that frustration and that they're not ready to go. And so, you know, maybe those things, I'm not talking like high-end retail, you know, like it is kind of funny. There's like a little dog mall the shelter in LA. The dog mall, I can't think of it, the routine. But basically, it's like they have like Louis Vuitton beds for dogs and things like that. I'm like, wow. So not quite that scale. I don't think so. So anyways, but just things like that I think would be helpful for people, or little spaces to visit animals like that, where people could just take their time and hang out with the animals and not feel like they're rushing through having to make a decision right away. So just some thoughts on that is what we're really hoping to get, and some input from the community of what they'd like to see. Because it really is our goal to make it much more welcoming environment, much more open environment, but something where people feel comfortable and safe coming into, no matter what they're there for, whether it's their worst day because they're unfortunately having to make the decision to put their pet down, or their best day because they want a new family member in their home. And so that's really kind of the goal, I think. And as much input as we can get on that, I think would be helpful overall, and it does get incorporated in design. So I should hear more within the next couple of weeks, and then I promise we will email all of you with that link so you guys can test it out too and see what you think. But just kind of some thoughts, and really starting to get community engagement, but we needed to get them on board first. So and it is my hope to have him at the next Animal Welfare Advisory Committee meeting, even if it's just a Zoom meet and greet. So y'all can meet him, because I think that is important, because you're all going on this with us on this journey. So I think it is important that who's involved.
We have asked this before, but are there shelters anywhere in the country, not just in Florida, that you're looking at as a model?
Oh, it's really terrible. It's like every shelter I see online, it wakes me up at 2 a.m. and I think of little elements I saw in that shelter that I'm like, how about that? Like I have terrible shiny object syndrome overload right now. And then I have to reel myself back in, at 7 o'clock in the morning and say, stop it, So again, Louis Vuitton dog bed. Yay, no, I'm just kidding. So but I do look at a lot of models. Pima is obviously one of them that comes to my mind, which is in Tucson, Arizona. They have just a beautiful layout and design. And it's amazing how they are so far out, way far out in the boondocks where they're located. But it is amazing how many community members come out to walk those shelter dogs all the time. It's amazing. But they really built a special trail, really geared for outdoor people. And so people very much get involved in that. Pima is one of them that comes to mind. I visited San Antonio last year. Their campus design was very interesting to me. It's older now, but the feel and the look and the design is timeless. So everything really surrounds the center area of kind of places where people can gather. They have concerts under the stars for dogs. It's kind of really cool. They have food truck wars there, so really bringing in the community more for other events than just to adopt or turn in an animal. So that's really kind of that goal. So yeah, there's a bunch, and I've taken little pieces from everywhere, I think. Who's the other one? Dallas? Is it Dallas? No, Houston. Houston SPCA? Okay. What's the other ones you like? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to Austin.
Yeah.
Animal.
Yeah.
They're
the services. Yeah.
Been a while.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the cat spaces are huge, right? That is one thing we really need more of. So having indoor, outdoor cat space, so cats can go in and out at their own leisure, and be contained and be away from the barking. So that they have their own space, that's really important to us. So that's kind of where we're at with all of that. There's lots of examples out there. And all of these different architects you get to know their feel and their flavor, and they all kind of have their own flavor, which is really cool though, because you can still pull some of the great elements from their designs, and use a piece of that and incorporate that. I mean, obviously for the county, sustainability is a big deal. Trying to get as energy efficient as possible is a big deal, things like that. So kind of looking for the latest and greatest, and it changes all the time now. I mean, technology, everything moves at warp speed, so there's a lot of new things that I don't know how tested they are yet.
Heather Lewis, a couple of years ago, gave a webinar that we can probably find. It was about building shelters in Florida that takes into account our
Yes.
environment,
Yes.
our outdoor sunshine, and all of the sort of neat things that building in Florida bring about Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah. There's even new buildings now that are, basically the heaviest one is 40 pounds, and it's by a company out of, I think, Miami, don't quote me, but anyways, I mean, they make these buildings so they don't use skilled labor in the construction. And they're hurricane, right? They're hurricane proof, they're,
Isn't that Lego?
yeah, it's the Lego design, yeah. So, I mean, there's so many just new things out there. There's 3D printed things now, and so it'll be cool if we can get it going. Break ground. In your packet as well, though, I think this is very exciting. There is the shelter statistics, and maybe that was what the person was referring to. And I will be honest with you, sometimes we miss these, but I am excited to say we had a 91% live release rate last year, so yay. And I know what the person was probably referring to is the under euthanasia. I wish they would have focused on the live release rate, but you know.
Exactly.
But anyways, sometimes what has happened, and I've tried really hard to work on this, but it doesn't always take place, is someone can categorize one of the categories through Asilomar as I think this cat will be okay, or I think this dog will be okay. So they click it one of these boxes. The next person that sees that and finds out, oh my gosh, this thing has both broken legs, it is absolutely not savable, forgets to click the box to change it to unhealthy, untreatable. So it's unfortunately a data error, but I mean, if you look at the 2,600, yeah, so at least I'm happy to see that it's a small amount, but also what's within that, it does include the owner requested euthanasia. So these are people that walk through our door. They cannot afford a private vet to euthanize their pets, and so they're begging us for help. And so same thing if they don't click that box correctly, because if you notice the owner requested euthanasia, the total of 52, but down below it's 47. So see, those numbers should match. So that's part of it as well.
What category does return to field fall under?
Outgoing transfers, outside community coalition. I know, it's ridiculous that Asilomar, they don't have that.
So speaking of that.
Yes,
Would
please.
be a great time to transition to Shelter Animals Count.
Okay, which I'm glad to.
Which does have all those modern
Right.
categories. And in fact, today I had to leave their webinar early, but they'll record a fantastic webinar on 2024 data from across the country.
Right,
From Shelter Animals Count. Really surprising trends. The ones we're feeling.
Right.
Like the hard ones, but you know, well,
Right.
everybody's feeling those. I would give consideration to adopting either one or both, but for sure publishing the Shelter Animals Count.
I'm happy to do that. It is posted. We are part of the coalition. It's just not posted on our website. But we are part of Shelter Animals Count. We do participate and pull our data each month. So there is a separate database called Shelter Animals Count. And all of our stats are posted on there as well automatically. They're automatically uploaded.
So there's a dashboard that can go on the
Yes,
website.
they do. And we would love to do that. We did try and we crashed our website when we tried it. So I know that the county is looking at other options for us when it comes to websites and things like that. But no, I think Shelter Animals Count is great. The hard part is it does not calculate a live release rate or a save rate.
What we can choose as a community, maybe this advisory committee can say, this is our definition.
Absolutely. And I am completely open to that. Whatever you would all like, I am happy to do that.
Do you want to elaborate on the difference?
On the what?
On the difference?
Live rate, save rate, all of that, or yes, so it's very arbitrary, just like 90%, it's a very arbitrary number. It was good to have a goal back 20 years ago
Yes.
when the whole industry was so far behind, but now we need more nuance as we get populations under control. Like if you're a shelter that only takes in the most desperate cases, you might not save 90%, whereas if you're just taking in easy. So the whole industry right now is grappling with this because best friends deadline to be no-till across the country this year. And so there's a lot of pressure and focus on numbers, that number 90%, and it's got some good things, motivations, and got some really hurtful things too. I mean, that's just where our industry is at this time. But how do you get to 90%? How do you decide? And there's a multitude of calculations you can use. One is live outcomes over live intakes during that period. You can do live outcomes over all outcomes, and various versions of that. So you've got your intakes, you've got your outcomes, and you blend those up to come up with a number. And unless you're accumulating animals, which the shelter does not do, which is good, they should be almost the same. It's the ones where you're taking in a whole lot more animals than you're releasing, where those two calculations can kind of diverge and be confusing. You can also just report both, and then people can pick the one they want. Another thing we're really pushing people to do is to start looking at numbers per 1,000 population. Because like you'll hear that, oh, Florida's the third worst euthanasia state, which is not the third biggest one. Of course, our numbers are going to be bigger than Connecticut. But if we look at the intake or euthanasia per 1,000 people, which is the most we choose, we are way down below average. Like, we're doing good as a state, but that's hidden in the way people talk about it. So we could also report that over time, like the values per 1,000. We're gonna start doing that on our website statewide. So we're gonna do it for you anyway, whether you like it or not.
Well, fantastic. We'll just go with hers.
It really shows the exceptional progress that Florida shelters have made that gets lost sometimes in this discussion. Does that answer your question? Like, there's a lot to it. It's not simple, but I think it is, maybe there should be a little task force for this group of people who like to work on this and come back next time with the recommendation.
I would love that. Yeah, we are very much open. I have no,
Get all that.
we are
Trying for the public to see.
And we post it on our website under statistics. So every month is posted, every quarter is posted, and every year is posted. So that's what we used to do, the Maddie's calculation when we had the grants. We used to post those, but that used to confuse people because of all the little boxes and columns and rows. And so we wanted to go to a simpler format that just people could look quickly and see what the statistics are, or numbers are. But Shelter Animals Accounts just gives you it gives you adult cats, adult dogs, puppies under 6 months. So it definitely gives you more information. Like I said, it just doesn't give you your percentage rate. And it's true, again, and as Dr. Levy said, is that our industry has really been struggling this because we keep moving the mark about, oh no, so it's not this year, we'll go next year is whatever the thing is, but it's hurting shelters. It is very much hurting shelters. I have talked to friends of mine that run shelters, and they've been getting lambasted because they are not hitting that 90%. But it is because of the cases they're getting in. They don't have that yet. When you've got a very rural community that has a lot of basically feral yard dogs in it, your outcomes are not going to be good. These are not adoptable dogs to go into extra homes. And so they get slammed and they get berated and they get and they quit. Quite frankly, the staff start quitting because it is not through their fault. They're just there to take in what they get, and they're getting, slammed for it. And it's just unfortunately, it's created a very divisive, it's just created very divisive rhetoric, quite frankly, around who's doing good and who's not. And it's not fair, because I think every shelter does good. I think every shelter is trying the best they can with what they have and the resources they have. And I feel lucky that we have as much resources as we do in this amazing community, and that, we're doing good. We've got partners in this community that really help and step up, and are trying to combat the animal overpopulation at every step of the way. A lot of communities don't have those resources. They don't have that. So,
That's friends did just make a post that say they don't like the use of the word kill shelter. Well, we're late to the party.
Right. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Who's going to?
We want to try to go back.
Yeah. So we could- Expo may have another shelter this afternoon.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Those are good.
They are good. I just don't, I used to live near Vegas, so I went a lot, so I'm just like, huh. But anyway, so those are just some food for thought of, just of different ways. If there is a way that you would all like to see us report our data, please by all means, let us know.
So, yeah, so I'm happy to learn about per capita, because I was wondering about that, whether you have like peer shelters you compare to, but per capita is probably. Even per capita doesn't count for everything, but,
Well, and per capita works better on a community level than on an individual animal level.
Right.
Once you start dividing up the community, it's very different between a nonprofit.
and then, this is just the snapshot, so trends are always what I look at, I think 91% is pretty stable is what it's been for a while, but the adoption rate, I know that you were working on adoption rather, at the shelter itself, rather than transferring partners for adoption, has that changed at all, the adoption rate?
So I'm sorry, one more time, Kristen.
So, I know one of the goals that you have is to have more adoptions.
Right.
At the shelter.
Yes.
More so than the transfers.
Right.
Just shuffling animals around.
Right.
So I just did a quick calculation, hopefully I did it right, is 66% of the outcome rate is adoptions.
Uh-huh.
So do you know if that's gone up?
It has.
Okay.
Yeah, true. Actually, a lot since we first, what was it, Sarah? Sarah knows these answers. Oh, no.
I do know that this past year was our second all-time adoption year. There was only one year that beat us just by a couple, and that was a pre-COVID year. That was also when it was a Rachel Ray promotion that was going on all summer, so they were open 7 days a week. We were the leading adoption agency in Alachua County, which we have not been for many years. So we did the most adoptions for an organization, and we did close to 300 more adoptions than 2023. It's definitely going. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to see that trend data after COVID, and then this, because, yeah, that's to celebrate, because that's what you said.
Yeah. It is on our website. Yep. And you can see it right on our website because we list all the years. And that year-end data is really easy to see. Yep. So it's on our statistics tab on our website. It's all publicized. So you can see all the trends there and how many the numbers are going up each time.
So are you evaluating, your adoptions, like what's gone well to increase that number and increase even more? As
I
like,
think we're hitting where we're hitting. I think we've hit our stride, but I mean, it's still been going up. And yesterday on a random Tuesday, we did 8 adoptions, for dogs, large dogs on a Tuesday. It was so strange. There's no holiday, maybe it was the full moon, I don't know, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's just been very interesting. I just think people have had successful adoption experiences, so they're telling more people. And so because it's very interesting, the weekday traffic we have been getting for adoptions has been pretty great.
Yeah, we did more dog adoptions than cat adoptions last year, which we were also pretty proud of because
Right.
multiple trends show that cat adoptions are on the rise, but dogs still won last year. I think something that we've really tried to emphasize in the past couple of years is in-home behavior notes and getting animals into foster for any point of time, getting them on short-term doggy day outs, sleepovers. We had the hurricanes come through. We were able to empty the shelter twice. I have all those numbers here. But in Helene, we sent 75 dogs into short-term foster. Milton, we sent 93 animals into foster. And so it was the first time I think ever that every single animal came back to us. We had in-home behavior notes. And so we put a huge emphasis between me, Blake, Cecilia, in building who the animals are outside of the shelter and not just going based on in-shelter behavior. And I think adopters respond to that. So that we're able to meet with them and talk to them about what life with the animal would look like outside of the shelter.
yeah, I was gonna mention your fostering, because I know that's something you've stepped up on, and I imagine, well, some fosters fail.
Right, yeah.
Or they know.
And we like that.
Or-
Yes.
Or they network the dog.
Right.
So, I mean, that seems like a huge.
Yeah, it's been huge.
Yeah.
We sent 1,248 animals to foster last year.
Nice.
So
Go ahead. Okay, well, I was just gonna say, it looks like our summer love and adoptathon will be August 9th.
Okay.
I have to confirm that.
Okay.
Because our semester schedule is a little in flux, so be looking for a grant application when you get there. It was very successful last year with 85 or
Yes.
so adoptions. We do need to meet with the county. I am derelict in not setting up a debrief on our last August one. So we will be trying to do that soon so that we can plan and.
We did have some more hurricanes after the summer level
Sorry, I
stuff.
blame it on her.
So-
Yeah, not my tardiness and I took a lot of notes luckily though, so we can get together on what we think we could refine for both PR and the shelter.
Extra mud pits,
The what?
extra mud pits. Mud pits. Mud pits for the cars to park in.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, we need more of those. Not all of you saw us girls pushing a car out of the mud because the tow truck driver wouldn't do it.
Yes.
Covered in mud, but we were successful. And okay, and related to that is posted option follow-up. Were you able to get signed up with Petzl for that automated posted option?
Not yet. Not yet, we haven't. She just reached out to me yesterday,
Okay.
so.
Really, if you're not familiar with Petzl, it's an automated post-adoption support. So it trickles information to adopters because, you know, they're not gonna read anything I have to give them later.
That's right.
And so you can put your next heartworm prevention is due, your next vaccine is due, go to your vet. 3 days in, how's it going? There's some surveys, so the shelter gets a heads up before they're there, returning the pet. And then Emily Weiss, the behaviors from ASPCA has written all the behavior handouts, how to house train and everything. So really, I am very skeptical of new software, but this one I'm sold on and actually signed up to be on their advisory board.
This is Petzl.
Petzl, PETS.
No, TZ.
No, Pets, is that?
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I don't know where they came up with that.
It's another pet name though, that.
But it's
fine.
look, it's very slick and
It is
there's lots of really good advisors.
We were checking with our IT department
Yeah.
to make sure there wasn't a problem with the interface.
Several Florida county shelters have signed up though, so that's good,
Good.
good sign.
Okay.
And then. Options. You're looking for website, models, Pasco County still rocking it as a county shelter, that's using the amazing website
Okay.
and.
I know,
Yeah.
whatever, they've got Spencer.
And
It's passing.
this is where I'll just say, I'm really scared about the future. We are looking at an ongoing worsening housing crisis, a wave of layoffs at all level of government that will then trickle into the private sector, deportations and immigration issues. Those folks have pets too, that people may be just pulled out of their home and leaving their pet behind with no chance to even arrange a pickup. And so I think we should be proactively somehow, I don't know how, but somehow hardening our community against these like already happening things. So that we can serve the pets and the people that have them. It is kind of beyond my skill level as a veterinarian to know how to do that. But I know there's gonna be a lot more homeless pets and people in trouble, like you said.
All of it's gonna
UF right now is in chaos over the federal funding cuts that are on again, off again, and research funding cuts. Because there's a lot of money, there's a lot of staff, infrastructure, patients in clinical trials that are being shut down, started back up again. But if any of those cuts go through, it's going to be devastating for the UF. And then that just makes me wonder. Okay, because they're not spending any money.
That's right.
During that time, so. Brace yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, I was thinking about trends that we know are on the horizon, what these adoption rates, amazing, foster, amazing. And we're gonna get to a point where we have to say though, it's not enough, we need to do more. And is there any what partnerships maybe are there in the community that we haven't taken advantage of? Are there any groups that exist that we don't work with already? You know, what, like we talked before the meeting, Kat can come talk about like the
Right.
AFP program, you know, anything that is going to be proactive about the fact that people are going to walk in and say, I can't keep my dog anymore and I don't have a place to live today.
And that's gonna be the really difficult conversation, but I will say, we are still, despite all these amazing statistics, we are full.
Yeah. Oh,
We do not have any more room at the end. And so, one of the things I can think about is maybe coming up with maybe like a public education campaign of some kind or something like that to get in the front of telling people how they should rehome pets or try to reach out and rehome pets so that it doesn't become a shelter first issue. You know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be there too, but I'm saying shelter first.
I do think we do have to grow the self-rehoming, like with the Dr. Pet or, that isn't really a big play here. If you like put in your zip code and go, I want to adopt a pet from Adopt a Pet self-rehoming, there's nothing local. So that is untapped.
Okay.
Right now, but they're also partnering with the Human Service Agency.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was gonna say, is the human service agencies, because they're gonna be the first line responders, and they can, you know, like. If they're working with a client that needs food or needs, you know, vaccines or something, we're the ones that can help with those things.
Right.
And then they can stay in their home.
Right.
But if the human services organizations know what resources we have, they can. help
Right.
Their client that's homebound and needs dog food or whatever, whatever the situation. is. Like, those are the organizations that we need to be.
Are we, do you guys know who the partner is for pet food with Meals on Wheels?
Used to be you, right?
It used to be Hells Angels.
Oh,
Yeah, they did the, cable cart,
okay.
so.
Went away.
Well, that's another one.
It is, it's just a thought. Okay. Okay.
So the continuum of care is probably, I don't know where you happen to know? No. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't United Way, I don't think United Way hosts it anymore, but that would be that's the coalition of human services group that deal with homelessness issues. So that would be that'd be the over organization to connect with them.
Catholic Charities, Bread of the Mighty.
Yeah, they're all involved in the continuum of care.
Yeah.
And Remedy Clinic.
What is going on?
So that it's gonna come back online.
I can't figure it out. I
know,
call one
it's-
day and somebody answers, then you call and we're
No,
temporarily
they're
closed.
temporarily closed. I called yesterday, and sometime this week with the person who's taken over from Atlantic Maine.
Okay,
She actually lives in Miami, and she comes up to Gainesville for a week or two at a time, and then she also goes up to Atlanta for a week or two at a time. So we just talked. And they're trying, you know, looking at building a sustainable model. They just hired a vet, somebody I know. And they're gonna take a few weeks to really start back up right in a more sustainable and predictable way. It was kind of like close.
right, right.
And they were losing money hand over foot. They were looking forward to that. That will be helpful.
Okay. You know, because Blue Pearl, we just lost Blue Pearl in Gainesville, so
What?
they shut down.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So, that is gonna be yeah, so we're gonna have to tell people to go to CCBS. So it's been rough. They're gonna keep the Jacksonville location, but, I've talked to them in depth while they were getting ready, and it's been hard on everybody there, as you can imagine, but.
Is
The
that
corporate-
the only emergency clinic you
No.
have a relationship with?
No, CCBS as well, yeah. So we are referring people there. I know, it's just hard. I know. CCBS, for you, those that don't know, they are not quite 24-hour yet. They go till midnight. However, they are working on expanding that. That's been in the works. They just want to make sure that when they launch that and make it go, that it's successful. They don't want to do something where it's stop-start. So they're just trying to make sure all their ducks are in a row before they go 24 hours. Again, they are open till midnight now. Anything after midnight would have to go to UF, small animal. But they are trying, but yeah, so unfortunately, their last day was yesterday. They've already pulled the signs down, everything's, yeah, it is sad. Corporate entities. There is an orthopedist veterinarian that's gonna go in this space. Specialist.
I have a very, very nice thing to say.
Oh, good.
A few weeks ago now, Catnip and Akar were both trying to catch a cat with a jar around her head.
You see that on Facebook?
We tried for a week. We had multiple volunteers, drop traps, regular traps. The caregiver tried trapping. They had boxers trying to trap, and they caught the cat. And I, being me, was like, "Here's my cell phone number. Call me. You get it." They got it. And Akar facilitated getting the cat to Blue Pearl to get the jar taken off, and then Catnip took care of the spay, and then she went back to.
Yeah. That was great.
the
That was
caregiver.
really good.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, it was cool.
teamwork's important,
It
and I
was.
think your staff is really great. Your staff does an amazing job.
Thank you.
I feel like I don't wanna end on doom and gloom.
Right.
You know.
Similar story been following on your Facebook page is capturing the foster dog.
Oh, Roxy.
Yeah.
Dear God.
That was another community-wide team effort.
Yes.
Yeah, the three of us spent a lot of time in the woods.
And some of that was like all the appeals, please don't chase this dog.
Yeah.
Everything
It
was
was very
fun.
well intentioned, but people kept chasing her out of where we were trying to trap her, and we were out there and we saw somebody in a car going by trying to chase her. We're like, get out of here.
Shout out to the person that let us put the trap in their backyard.
Yes, even though we caught some raccoons, but we eventually got a girl.
And the raccoon had probably attacked Blake. The raccoon was not a fan of Blake. So, in fact, Rob was in the trap, so.
Sarah, were you able to get all that? That was a very healthy.
The other thing too, kind of, I just wanted to at least address really quick was, recently we have had a lot of cases that we have been working on. And, this community is amazing in letting us know when there's problems out in the community. That is very much positive when people let us know what's happening because they've got eyes on it, they're there to see it. It can also be devastating to our case. So, we've had several, unfortunately, situations where we have actively been working a case and people have posted about it online and then made it go viral and then brought it to the news and everything else, and it completely wiped out our case. So we are really trying hard to, even though we don't talk about cases publicly a lot, there's a reason, there really truly is, and it's really our goal to look out for the safety of everybody that's involved as well as the animals themselves. And so it has been difficult in a number of these cases because they just, unfortunately, people believe everything they read online and then they take off with it and then they make it their own thing and then it spins and spins and spins and spins. And it just sets us back so much. And, our goal at the end of the day is to get these animals out of these terrible situations. That is always our goal. That is our core. We have we have 7 cases currently sitting with the state attorney's office that we are prosecuting. We have successfully won in the last 4 cases that we have submitted. So we are getting our wins, but it is difficult when you put so much effort and time and manpower into these and then they just evaporate because people really like to talk about what's happening or they don't think something's happening or they demand to know an answer and we don't have that yet because we're still working it. They take time because we don't want to make a rush to judgment either and falsely accuse somebody of something wrong or that they weren't in need of help and resources. And it's not that they're mean, they're not cruel people. They needed some serious help.
Right.
So we just take those carefully. So we most likely will be trying to kind of come up with a campaign of snitch, but don't say it, basically, or, if you see something, say something, just not to the world, something like that. Because it does, and Perry knows, I've called him on several, it can be really hard to try and put that back all together again, now that you've lost it and try and rebuild it again from scratch. So just wanted to share that.
So I think it's worth educating volunteers about that first.
Yes.
Because I think it's every once in a while, I think one of my duties of being on this board is to inform the public when I can. And so when something comes up on Facebook under the post and I know the answer, I see Chelsea do that as well.
Yeah.
It's to inform. But I mean, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Especially about legal cases.
Right.
Because they're very specific. So if you could let us know and then let like your volunteers know, and then they could probably just, that might be a good way to disseminate that information, because there are eyes and ears on the community as well, and they can say, hey, this is not helpful to enroll.
The problem is we don't want it out there like that either,
You don't-
because they're watching, these people watch social media. They're getting wind of it before.
I think
Yeah.
instead of submitting like that,
Yeah.
you know. I don't know.
Well, the generic answer is it's an active investigation
Right.
and I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Right.
But there is an investigation. It is,
But that's the problem,
that's-
if
that's
there
what I
is, and you
mean.
don't want the dog fighter to know.
Well, that's what I mean about educating, is educating in the sense that
well,
there is a process. You can't comment on any what happened. But if you, under the purview of animal services, this is not helpful to people protecting them by
Right,
doing this.
right.
to answer that specifically, Dr. Levy, if they already have possession of the dogs,
I'm thinking more of when you're doing the investigation and you're like getting clues, getting subpoenas, and then someone splashes it all over the internet. Why are these dogs picked up? And then it's like, oh, okay, I'll move my dog out of dogs now because animal control hasn't, seized them yet. I think that's where,
yeah, it's definitely a
It's not on
very,
our cruelty side, yeah.
well, it's definitely very, I'm more with large animals, obviously, and it's definitely a very delicate balance between, keeping the complainant happy that, hey, we are working on this, because with these investigations, at least my side, can't speak for your officers,
The
but
same.
at least with my side, it's not something that, it's not something I'm probably gonna go in there in one day and wrap it all up. It may be a 6-month-long investigation where, I am given, I'm giving that owner an opportunity to make things right. And,
The general public doesn't understand.
and then that way, and two, if it winds up being 6 months or if it winds up being 2 weeks, if it goes all the way and they fight to get the animals back,
That's it.
I've got what I need to prove that, no, they cannot have them back. They do not deserve them. They were given every opportunity before they were taken. My end goal is the same. It's if I need to remove an animal, I need to make daggum sure that I've done my part
Right.
so that the animal doesn't go back and become victimized,
Right.
further. And unfortunately that takes time, especially with the ones that are borderline, and it's a lot of times it's it was mentioned, it's a resource thing. They just don't have the resources, to do it. Livestock, except for the case of horses, is a little bit easier because they can go to the livestock market, a lot of them. So it's a little bit easier for these owners who can't afford them, to send them on their way. But yeah, it's definitely a delicate, it's a delicate thing. I've had people, I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole. But yeah, it's definitely a balance.
Right.
But I think that's where for me, the trick has been earning the trust of the folks here in Washington County. And I don't know if there's a way to do that better for ACAR, to earn the trust of the community, so that if I tell you, hey, we're doing everything we can.
But see, that's the problem, is that's where it stopped. What happens is this just goes out into the
Right.
metaverse.
Yep,
And now it's already gotten legs by the time I even read it.
yep.
Now it's so far out that now I can't even respond because people responding have now said way more than I can respond to.
Yep.
And so that's what makes it really difficult, I think, in those situations, is
And-
that,
At the end of the
and it
day,
takes one picture, as we all know, it takes one picture for everybody to blow it up and think it's something and make assumptions about something,
Yeah.
when it was actually A, B, C, D, E, and there's more to it, and there's actually there's 5 more animals, you know, you don't know the part of it and you can't say anything, right?
That's why at the end of the day, we're always gonna be the bad
I
guy.
know, 100%.
You know, even though, you know you're doing what you can do.
Right, and I
Um,
think that's what's important.
I think the trust thing is big. I think
Yeah.
over the years that not just here, everywhere,
Right.
you know, like animal control has been
Yeah, hated.
hated and not trusted.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
But it's so much, not everyone's been here for decades in
Yeah.
this coalition, but so much better than it started.
Oh, yeah,
Really,
really.
we do not have all the drama that other communities have.
We do, definitely do not, but as the community, basic community, they just, I mean,
Right.
they're not, you know, they want instant gratification, they see a problem, they want someone to solve it, so they do not have to see this problem anymore. They
Right.
have to drive by that problem for 6 more months, that's a problem.
Right.
So I don't know that we're gonna be able to solve.
Right. And that's it. I think that, you know, I had a long conversation with somebody and I said, I can tell you as much as I can tell you and then I can't tell you anymore. And she got super mad at me and hung up on me and then blasted on and like, I answered all the questions I could, but I can't, you know, obviously impact what we're investigating either. And so, sorry, you're not happy with the answer, but I can't tell you anymore.
Well, never apologize.
Yeah, fair.
I mean,
I felt bad, like they were so mad.
I get
It's
it.
like, wow.
I totally get that.
Right.
You know, and we can sidebar later,
Okay.
and compare some notes, but.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta know that when you go home at the end of the day, I did what I could do. It's not personal. They're passionate and we appreciate their passion.
Yeah, definitely.
But you're also passionate.
Yeah,
You
very,
just know what the rules of the game are
right.
and the rules have to be followed.
Because I don't want
or
to see
you-
them,
or
I
you-
don't want it, I don't want that problem to, I don't want that animal to ever suffer again.
Yep.
That's the bottom line at the end of the day is I don't want to see the animal suffer again. You know, and if I can help it, if it's a human element involved, I want to make sure that human doesn't, you know, suffer again, so.
All right. Not to throw fun, but if we beat that horse to death, though, Sarah?
No.
Yeah, we're good. Any further discussion on statistics and?
Just quickly, I do think you should celebrate it publicly.
Okay.
If you can, and,
Yeah.
I think it's worth,
Can you post?
yeah, and say what your successes are.
I agree. I like her that post. We'll do that post on Facebook. and all that.
Even like,
all the
send
ages.
something remarkable or, so that we
Yeah.
release.
You have an adoption trend number.
Yeah. Oh, Gail's happy to throw that out.
Your success at your foster program, your volunteers, you know.
Sure.
Your staff.
Make a motion to establish a little temporary committee or task force to address the issue that you brought up, or you brought up too, about what statistics we should be reporting and like how to calculate budget.
Sure.
We just do that and then bring that a recommendation next time.
All right, is there a second? Well,
Let's sit on it first.
yeah, so, okay, is there a second to establish the task force and then we'll move into discussing that?
I don't even know if that's the right word. That sounds too official. And grow, you know, but
Well,
whatever that.
How about a
Statistics
subcommittee?
work group.
How about a
A work
subcommittee?
group, I would like
Statistics work group.
It's not an ongoing thing. It's a one task. One group.
Okay, work group and I guess we need to get clarification on would that work group be subject to sunshine law if it's a work group?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
So I've got a motion and would you repeat the motion? So we've got it there for the record.
So my motion is to establish a work group to review options for shelter data display and metrics.
Would it be helpful to like, because I think that there's data here, is there anything on there that, or that isn't on there that someone is interested in?
Well, there's lots of supplies, shelter animals count would be one of the things we do.
So if that exists already.
So is that a volunteer for the?
I'm happy to.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so we've got a motion. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion passes. Now, how many, are there volunteers for the work group?
I can.
Um,
I'll volunteer, but it's I mean, I can't, I don't know. It can't be like hours of meeting.
No, I perceive this to be very. efficient. One meeting.
okay, so who do we have volunteering? We've got
Do we
Chelsea,
meet?
Dr. Levy.
Yes, you need me? You don't need me. You need me or you
Melissa?
don't need me?
Welcome to, or I think someone from the.
work.
So Sunshine is still subject to the public meeting,
So
requirements,
three
so
of us meet and talk about this.
it has to
So-
be public.
It just has to be noticed.
Right.
So you probably want Miss Gilly there for minutes.
Nice.
So,
Oh,
so,
poor
okay,
Jill.
so we've got,
She doesn't have an ounce of
all
time.
right,
We can meet there.
okay, so.
Okay, meet at the shelter, maybe make it easier,
So
okay.
we've got 3 or 4 of y'all volunteering for this.
And I'll be on it too, yeah, I'll be on it too, just kidding.
Well, there's staff.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so why don't y'all go ahead and establish a meeting date now? Yeah, y'all go ahead and discuss that. That way
Yeah.
everything's on the.
Yeah, Gina, noticed agenda, 10 minutes required, yep, we need, yep. Yeah, okay. Yeesh.
How about we start with Sarah, give us a couple of options of
When is
days.
she available?
And then we fit into one that fits for all of us.
Okay,
Can she send out like?
And you,
Could we
and you
do
don't
a
have to,
Google thing?
and you don't necessarily have to meet here.
no, we got to, let's do it at the shelter maybe, because it's easier for.
Okay. I will send that out. Send it to Google. And I do have a lot of statistics already put together and pretty professional, like that's our volunteers, so
Right.
I'll have.
I think it's a minor task.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take long, but I know,
Okay.
hopefully not, but we
So-
can just look at the.
So staff is gonna send out some dates
Yep.
for this work group, and then y'all will figure out what
Yep.
through Sarah, and then y'all will meet and do that.
And can you, like, after mid-March?
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay.
So, the suggestion, would you look at, reasons for reaching animals as an age point as well?
Reason for what?
Relinquishing animals, like,
We don't categorize that well enough.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it's been a hot point. We don't have that many that are doing it because of housing.
Mhm.
We get very few. It's really, hey, I'm moving today. My class ended yesterday, so I'm moving, so I'm not taking
And
that.
it's not, maybe not completely truthful all the time. but
Right.
At least have that conversation. where-
Yeah, I can.
We do.
Are we going to?
Yeah, so currently we're meeting quarterly, and then I think we've always kind of had it in there if we needed a special meeting,
Right.
then, staff will coordinate and we could have a special meeting. Does anyone feel like that we need to meet more frequently than that?
No, I will elaborate why. It was brought up by the county commission
Okay,
to at least ask the committee if by chance you felt like we needed to meet more often. And so to ask,
and
what
that's,
your,
yep, and that's
Yeah.
basically the discussion on the table.
I don't think we need to meet more often, but I think like this committee is an advisory committee.
Yes,
And so when a car feels like they are in hot water or has a problem or has something where they're saying, we need advice from our committee, I think that falls upon a car to say.
we need an emergency.
Committee
We need a
members
special
need
meeting. Okay.
And I mean, just for any meeting,
Right.
that's what we're here for, we're here to advise you, so if you have to bring us, what are your concerns, what are your problems? And then I'm happy to, I'm all for, emergency meeting, we gotta get in.
Or if there's like a single topic we want to cover, for example, the shelter or something, you want to create a meeting around that, even not emergency, but,
That does a lot for public, that we're talking about public trust, if there is something that is circulating in the public and then we can address that, and that
that feels good.
So we just call it a special meeting.
My special meetings.
Missing, a bunch of meetings.
Okay, so the way I understand, we're still good with, we feel like quarterly meetings are, we're getting our business done, quarterly meetings. But that, we're available for any special meeting, as requested through ACAR. Or any member of this committee can
it's not
request a
just us.
special meeting.
Yeah.
But obviously we know what we're here to do and so.
Also, if it's communication email, if there's between meetings and something
Right.
comes up.
Right.
If it just takes an email, that's because I like emails.
Make sure that this committee's emails are in the public domain or do.
It is, it's on eScribe when you guys submit your packets.
I think the rule is we're not allowed to respond to all,
Right,
can't reply to all, we just have to
Okay.
respond to who sends.
Yeah.
Right.
We cannot have, we can't have a discussion,
Can.
email, phone, otherwise, committee business with each other outside.
yeah, we can't conduct business via
outside
email.
threats.
And we're supposed to preserve our emails. If we do respond, say, I'm gonna be at the meeting, we created a public document. So if someone asks, you're supposed to preserve those emails.
Right, we can't conduct business via email.
But we can communicate with staff.
Yes. Just not. Okay. Okay,
All right.
What was the context of the BCC wanting, asking if we met enough? Or
just as a general request, like,
Okay.
do they feel they need to meet more? Should they meet more? Is it frequent enough? And I said they did already vote on this before, but we could ask again, so I think we would ask again.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we're agreeable to
That's what they.
as needed. As needed, we'll meet if there's a need.
Yeah.
Essentially. So, okay, we're moving on to our responsible public comment. I know I have a few questions, about some things, and I know that Director Johnson, you touched some on the statistics in terms of some of the accusations about abuse and some of the things that have gone on. And I did have a question as far as that goes. Is there some sort of regulatory authority that comes by and inspects the shelter or nothing like that? I mean, but you're the ones that are also investigating animal cruelty in the, and a lot of those animals are there because of animal
Right.
cruelty. So y'all are the expert, in that. So, guess that answers my question. So I don't know. I know that you spoke, you already kind of addressed that with, is there anything further that you would like to speak on that, or you've already covered that?
I think we've covered that, in depth. I mean, I will say that, to Ms. Branson's point, there was discussion about, like, was there this, was there that, or whatever. We did have a full investigation. And one of the conversations that, we talked about and came up with was, would there be an opportunity for staff to learn more about when they see pain, what does it look like, things like that. And so that really did precipitate that discussion and asking Dr. Robinson to come in and train all of our staff. Because again, it's good for all staff to know. No one gets in this industry wanting to hurt animals or leave animals in an unclean manner or not take care of them or anything else. And so I took really serious offense with some of the accusations lodged that weren't proven, like that we don't care or we're dismissive of it or something like that. Some of what we do. I mean, I've dedicated my life to this through some tragic circumstances that happened to me when I was younger that has continually made me want to help more. And, quite frankly, I'm lucky I haven't burnt out from it yet, but, I think that at the end of the day, there are always things that we can do better, or there is a time or a date or something that was missed that could have been addressed. One of the things I think that we had talked about during that with what she was reading, we had a staff member that wasn't doing
best for the care of the animals, that person was immediately terminated. We act upon it as soon as we know something's wrong. Not everybody's perfect, not everything's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. And not everybody has a perfect day, 100% of the time. But that said, we are always striving to do as much as we can for the animal in this community. And it will always be our goal to prosecute abuse, to prosecute any animal crime, to make sure we're getting animals out of situations, but to also take care of the animals that are already in our shelter and make sure we're trying to get them loving, adoptable homes as much as possible. And when we get those animals in that are just not safe, and I have no problem saying this to anybody in this room, I always look at an animal, I say, can you put a child with an ice cream cone next to that animal and that animal will be 100% safe, and that child will be 100% safe? Yes or no? If the answer is no, and I have an animal that's gonna probably take the arm off to get the ice cream or something like that, we got a problem. Doesn't mean it's an instantaneous thing, but it's something we need to talk about, right? Is that a safe animal to put back in our community? Because, people can tell us all the time that, don't worry, it'll never be around another animal. It only hates other dogs or cats. It doesn't really like kids, but it's never gonna be around kids. You gotta take those into consideration because we don't wanna put anybody in an unsafe position. So, at the end of the day, we are, again, if you look at our statistics, we took in 2,700 animals. We handled almost 9,000 calls for service last year. That is just the calls for service. That is not the number of people that came in through the facility needing help as well. So, when you take that into consideration and you say, geez, they've got 40 staff that's made all that work and that made that happen, and that, yeah, it's really 30, it's been about 30, I guess, but 30 staff, on a regular basis that have made that happen. That is a lot of touch points for that number of animals. And I just think people forget that sometimes. It is a lot. We still have 105 dogs in our shelter that we are constantly trying to take care of. And then depending on the month and the time of year, we have cats as well. And so, it's just, and they have different sets of care that they need, different types of care. People that are better with cats than with dogs, people that are better with dogs than cats. You have to find the flavor of where everybody works and fits in. And, again, at the end of the day, it is our goal to save as many lives as possible safely and humanely, and to also prosecute those that would hurt animals in our community and or break the laws in any way, shape, or form that somehow harms animals or other people, or, causes that animal to be in stress in any way. So, that's really the bottom line. That's really making it simple for what sheltering is. And we are a temporary home. We're not a permanent home, and people forget that. And when we have cases and things like that, we have to hold those animals throughout the entire case. That could be 6 months before that case is resolved. That animal has to stay in our shelter. So it is a fine balance of managed intake, of managing what we take in and what we get out every single day, and it's never perfect now. But if we are not spreading disease and not causing the animals suffering, we're doing something right. So, and I think our statistics show that. So, we will always strive to do better though, and I'm not saying we can't do better. We want to show things different, to the public and be more transparent. There's some things we can do with the public, great. We will always strive to do that. Absolutely.
Thank you. That was a very thoughtful response.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I have one other response to that original comment was a call for independent investigation.
Right.
But I would say it's been over 10 years since we've done a shelter consultation, which is not an investigation, it's a collaborative process. And I would just like to plant the seed that it might be a right time to bring in an outside person or company to do a shelter consultation again, just to refresh, get new eyes on the shelter, and also potentially kind of get some things smoothed out or streamlined in advance of moving to a new shelter. So that they're not urgent by any means, but I've seen some really good outcomes from having shelter consultations with other national.
That is something that maybe y'all want to have some further discussions on,
Yeah.
and it sounds like something. Yeah, and if it's something that this committee, needs to make the recommendations for, if, you know, you decide it's warranted and need help getting it done.
We can follow up next.
I think, or y'all can maybe discuss that in the workshop, your workshop, if it's.
I think too, I mean, I think that that's something, I mean, I've been involved in the shelter console, so it's not like a hard thing to dial up and ask. If that makes sense. It's not, it just takes filling out.
I think that's a wonderful idea, you know, personally, because it never hurts to have someone outside with fresh eyes. They can look at something, you know, because.
Yeah, it's what builds that trust with the community.
Yep.
I wanna see.
I had a similar question, the first question, are there accreditations for municipal shelters as well? No?
And in Florida, there's no oversight.
Okay.
And you have good partnership too.
Yeah.
I mean,
in California, it was the same, though, there was no accreditation body for shelters out there. or anything like that. So there, I mean, yeah, it's not just here, so
In
just
New York
saying,
State, they just passed a law that all shelters have to meet the ASB guidelines.
yeah,
Which is crazy because nobody can meet them
Right.
all. But it's
right,
still
no
on now.
kidding, oh gosh.
When did they do that?
New York.
New York State, all shelters in the state have to meet the guidelines.
Which is next to impossible unless they're the A.
It's like 40 shelters.
Yeah, I was gonna say lollipop farm. Even.
Are we good with that one? So,
I don't know if I have to make a motion to amend the agenda, but I just want to make a comment about bird flu, since it's an urgent emerging issue.
no, I think,
Can I say that?
I think absolutely.
So avian influenza is spreading across the country. Cats are the most susceptible, domestic species, and we're starting, there's been 125 or so cats in the US that are infected. Half of those are from the dairy farms, so they're making the infected milk, the cows. Fortunately, we do not have that yet. We don't have the dairy invading, infections in Florida, or even like a lot of waterfowl that are being infected. It is out there, and then the marine mammals are like really highly at risk and dying. But so for our people that are handling cats, what you should watch for is cats that have URI, that's great, because so many do, but neuroscience, and that's what makes it really unique. So if you're seeing neurological signs in cats, think rabies and bird flu. And Sid and I just did a webinar yesterday. I'll share the link that anybody who wants to look at it. And we have some handouts now about how to manage it in your shelter, in TNR program, and I forget the other ones. It's just like, keep your eye on the news for that. I'll share that.
Then we can send it to the committee.
Yeah, the community cat caretaker should be informed.
Definitely both in the TNR clinic, what they should do, but also how you should manage your.
And we can link that on our
community
website
cats to
too.
reduce your
Yeah,
risk.
we can link that.
There was one public comment about the horse and the, did you want that addressed?
Yeah, well,
He would
so,
be perfect.
it's not a
person.
member, it's not a back and forth
Yeah.
on public comment. However, it's not really this committee thing, but I would like to address that if y'all indulge me a little bit. So when it comes to horses, there's basically two of us that go out and respond to those things. And if someone calls and says, my neighbor's got this going on, or I saw this horse driving by, we're gonna go check it out. And, you know, obviously, you know, horses, you know, a lot of people know horses, a lot of people don't know horses, but horses, like every other animal, and please understand, when I describe things, I try to describe them in the most basic I can. It's not meant to offend anybody who knows more than me or whatever, but at any rate, every one of them is a case by case. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna evaluate what does the animal look like? I mean, are we underweight? And why are we underweight? Are we getting nutrition? And, you know, this specific thing had to do with the question was with the teeth. You know, okay, do we need, you know, are we dropping feed? Are we not getting, you know, or are we not using a feed that's more soluble, a senior type feed? I mean, why is this horse look the way this horse looks? If I'm looking at it and after talking with them and get some history on the animal and they're doing everything that they possibly can, If the horse is bad enough, to be honest, I will probably recommend euthanasia. I would never force that unless the horse was down and obviously suffering, or in such a body condition state that, yeah, you really need to do this. If it's bad enough, then, well, at any point, I'm going to give them the option to call in a large animal vet.
Sure.
And make the recommendation, follow the vet's recommendation. If the vet recommends this, fine, we're good. It's every one of them is just case by case. If, in my opinion, the animal is suffering and we do not get a voluntary, I'll call my large animal vet to come out. If it's bad enough, I will call the large animal vet out. So it's just, it's case by case, and it's, how much is this owner willing to put into what's going on? But it all starts with the animal. What am I seeing? What is my experience telling me, with the animal, what's going on? Do I need to call in someone who, has the large animal background, as far as a veterinarian goes? Do I need to pull somebody like that in? It's all case by case. But it is addressed. It's not just ignored. And like I said, there's two of us at the sheriff's office that specialize in that's pretty much that, and livestock at large is all we do. It's not getting shuffled. It's not getting shuffled down the line. We handle it from initial call to end result. So hopefully that answers.
Well, thank you. I thought you'd be the perfect person to ask, so thank you.
I appreciate it too, because it's not something I'm familiar with it from a livestock background when I grew up, but not what you're doing. And it's similar, you build the situation, you evaluate, you find answers.
Hoof care is another one out there. And my opinion on hoof care will differ probably a lot. If the animal's able to move around and doesn't appear to be in pain when you walk, I don't really care if it's got elf shoes on. Obviously that can lead to, other things, but until.
You're the emergency response in a sense.
I'm the initial response.
Yeah.
And then like I said, and it always comes down to, hey, if you're gonna do this, look, it could lead to this. I would suggest you consult with a large animal vet. But every one of them's case by case, it's all different. And a lot of it depends on, because I like ACAR, removing animals is a 100% last resort. I want to help that owner, be the right owner, so.
Absolutely can, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that answers that. There was a lot of concerns about, it came up a couple times about the new shelter location, and whatnot. And I know this committee has discussed this before, but our stance on the shelter location and whatnot is pretty simple. And that is, this committee really is not concerned with where the shelter is built. This committee knows ACAR needs a new shelter and is in full support of the new shelter. And those decisions as far as where, how, contracts and whatnot is really not within this committee's. We have basically two mandates that, the way I see it, and please add to that, but there's two primary ones that I see this committee has. Number one is to support ACAR and assist ACAR with getting what ACAR needs to function. And number two is to act as a public engagement body. I feel like personally that we are doing a much better job of, as far as engaging with the public. It's another place that public can throw ideas and bounce ideas and hopefully get some direct answers. It's kind of what I feel like our goal is. When answer the questions that we can answer. So has anything changed? Any discussion on that, or are we all still on kind of the same page? That's kind of where this committee feels about it, the issue. Does anyone else have anything else they would like to discuss about, public comment as far as response to public comment? Anything else anybody took notes on that, they would like to discuss as committee? All right, we're moving on to our next meeting. The way I see it, it's probably like the first Wednesday in May would be the next time. Oh, you got something before we do that?
Yeah,
Or
I
you
do,
wanna do it after we set a meeting.
Just really quick though, we did receive a document though from, Ms. Rupert, and so this will become part of the record. So regardless, she did bring this up to our attention to the committee. So this will become part of the public record for the meeting. So I just want to make everybody aware of this. That you can read it when you have a moment, because you haven't seen this. So this way you can at least have those, and it will be part of the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
you. So our next meeting,
Wednesday, May.
well,
Is it?
so I'm gonna be out of town the first, that first week in May and
Is it?
maybe the second. So
It's the second, isn't it the second Wednesday? That's what I thought, second Wednesday.
the second Wednesday would be the 14th of May.
We'll do the 21st if you're out of town.
We could do
You're out of town 14th.
the 21st. Oh, the 21st, I could do. What is everybody else's? Does that date look good? Well then, okay, well then we'll rely upon Ms. Gilly to check and see if this space is available for the next meeting. And if so, I would ask that she send out the meeting notification, and then if it needs to be changed, we can work that out. So May 21st at 1 o'clock, tentatively. Does anybody have anything else? Good for the group. Welcome our new members. Appreciate y'all being here. Do I have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, please, by saying aye.
Can't imagine. Yeah. How have you been, Chris? Good. How about you? Good.
We try to get outside.
I think that's just work. That's all.
You take care. Bye.
You're gonna try and do a one first, and then once people more come on, and try it out.
Gee, I tried.
She said that she couldn't hear it, that's why she got off. She said she was in the microphone. We brought this up before. Also, Robert tried to come in and she tried to get your attention of the chair. So she wasn't able to have it fall in. She thought because the reception.
Can we possibly reach out and ask if she possibly can generate an email?
That would be better.
Well, I mean, for the next one.
Yeah.
What's going? Because that way we'll be talking about Ms. Branson. If we know, then we can go borrow the equipment.
Well,
That's all. But I already know she's.
Liz.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first of all.
We have time.